Imagine a house with 8 walls and not a single square corner. Strange, isn't it? The first time you'd come across one of these, you'd probably slow right down and stare, because it looks less like a home and more like a jewelry box someone left sitting in a field. And believe it or not, homes like this were once the talk of the country. Back in the middle of the 1800s, a man named Orson Squire Fowler became absolutely convinced that the ordinary square house had it all wrong. He believed that a home with 8 sides let in more sunlight, breathed better on a warm afternoon, and gave a family more room to move about, all while using less material to build. To him, this wasn't just about how a house looked. He was certain that living inside those 8 walls could make a person healthier, calmer, and, well, happier. And for a little while, people believed him. These homes began popping up with their flat rooftops, their little glass crowns perched right on top, and wide porches that wrapped clear around the outside like a warm embrace. But the one I want you to see stands in Natchez, Mississippi, and it will break your heart a little. They called it Longwood, the grandest 8-sided home ever raised on American soil. 6 floors were planned, 32 rooms. A soaring dome meant to catch the sunlight. Skilled craftsmen came down from the north to build it, and they poured their hands into every detail until the war between the states broke out. And here's the part that stays with you. Those workers set down their tools right where they stood, some of them still resting inside the house to this very day, and they simply never came back. The grand rooms upstairs were left as bare bones, raw brick, and open beams. And the family? They gathered up their lives and moved into the finished basement, living quietly beneath the shell of the magnificent palace they had dreamed of, a dream frozen in time and never, ever finished. Now, that dream was all about the perfect shape. But the very next home I want to share with you was chasing something else entirely. It was chasing pure, dazzling beauty, dressed up like it was going to a party. If the 8-sided home was a quiet dream of order and calm, this next one threw the doors wide open and simply showed off. And oh, how it showed off. Between roughly the 1880s and the early 1900s, a style swept across America that looked like a wedding cake come to life. Turrets and towers, wraparound porches, scalloped shingles, and delicate wooden trim carved as fine as lace. They named it Queen and, though truth be told, the American version was far more playful and whimsical than anything you'd find across the ocean. No 2 rooflines seemed to agree with one another. Bay windows leaned out to greet the street. Little stained glass panels caught the afternoon light and scattered it across the parlor floor. These were homes that wanted to be looked at, and my goodness, they still are. The most breathtaking one of them all sits up in Eureka, California, and it's called the Carson Mansion. If you've ever seen a photograph of a grand old Victorian home and felt your breath catch just a little, chances are it was this one. Folks call it one of the most photographed houses in the entire world. It was built in the 1880s for a lumber baron, and every inch of it seems to twist and climb and reach for the sky, painted the color of soft green with cream trim, crowned with a tower that watches over the whole town. I could sit and study a house like that for hours, finding some new little detail every single time. But here's the bittersweet part, my dears. You can admire the Carson Mansion from the sidewalk all you like, but you cannot go inside. For many years now, it's belonged to a private club, its doors closed to the curious public, holding all its secrets quietly behind those beautiful windows. A grand old beauty, still keeping to herself. Now, all that carved trim and all those towers didn't come cheap. A home like that took real money and real time. And after a while, everyday families grew tired of the fuss and the frills. They started longing for something simpler, something honest, something a working family could actually afford. And so the tide began to turn. Families started pulling away from all that fancy woodwork and those dizzying towers, reaching instead for something plain and sturdy and sensible. What they found was a house shaped almost like a simple box, 2.5 stories tall, square and solid, standing proud on a narrow little city lot. Folks called it the American Foursquare, though some knew it by a sweeter name, the Prairie Box. There was nothing showy about it, and that was exactly the point. A wide, welcoming front porch. A gently sloping roof with a single window peeking out of the top like a sleepy eye. And inside, for big square rooms on each floor, no wasted space, no nonsense, just room enough for a family to live and grow. Now here's where it gets wonderful. Say you were a young couple back then, dreaming of a home of your own. You didn't need to hire a fancy architect at all. You could simply open up a catalog, the very same kind of catalog you'd flip through to order a coat or a set of dishes, point to the house you liked best, and mail in your order. And a little while later, a railroad car would pull into town carrying your entire house, every board and nail and window, ready to be put together right there on your own piece of land. And here's a little something that always makes me smile. Some of those catalog homes came with a printed instruction book so thorough that the company promised a man and his family could raise the whole house themselves, without a single professional builder. Some kits arrived with tens of thousands of pieces, each one numbered, like the world's largest puzzle waiting on the lawn. Now, before we go on, and please, do stay right here with me. If you're enjoying this little journey back in time, take just a moment to subscribe and tap that like button. It truly helps more than you know, and it means you won't miss the homes still coming. And believe me, you'll want to see them. Because a little further along, I'm going to show you the tiny house where one of the most famous voices in American history was born, a home tied to a tale that still gives people chills, and, right at the very end, the one house whose story brought a tear to my own eye. So don't you go anywhere. Because those mail-order homes I just mentioned? They were only the beginning of the story. The idea of a house arriving in the post grew into something far bigger and more remarkable. Just imagine it for a moment. The mailman doesn't bring you a letter. He brings you an entire house. It sounds like something out of a storybook, but for tens of thousands of American families, this was simply how you got your home. A well-known company by the name of Sears, the same folks who sold everything from stockings to sewing machines, began selling houses straight out of their famous catalog. You'd turn the pages past the shoes and the garden tools, and there they'd be dozens of dream homes, each with a name and a price, waiting to be chosen. Once you picked your favorite, the pieces came rolling in by the trainload. And I do mean pieces, as many as 30,000 of them for a single house. Every wooden beam was cut to size and stamped with a number. The paint, the nails, the little brass doorknobs, even the varnish for the floors, all of it tucked inside, along with a thick book of instructions promising that an ordinary family could put it all together like a giant puzzle spread across the yard. Neighbors would come from down the road to lend a hand, and slowly, board by numbered board, a home would rise up where there had been nothing but grass the week before. And you know, that's the part that touches me most. These weren't just houses, they were somebody's beginning. A young husband and wife, saving every penny, choosing their very first home from a catalog on the kitchen table by lamplight. And here's a thought that might just give you pause. Many of those homes are still standing today, lived in and loved, over 100 years later, and the families inside often have no idea their house once arrived in the mail. So let me ask you this, and I truly want to know, could it be that your own mother or grandmother once lived in a home that came by train? Have a think on that, and if a memory stirs, I do hope you'll share it with me down below. Now, while some families were busy piecing their homes together from a kit, out on the sunny West Coast, a very different idea was taking hold, one that turned away from mass production altogether and put the warmth of the human hand back into the heart of the home. Out in California, where the sun sits gentle on the hills, a group of dreamers decided that a house should be made the old way, slowly, lovingly, by hand. They were tired of factories and machines stamping everything out the same. They wanted honest wood you could run your fingers along, joints fitted together by a real craftsman, and little touches you simply couldn't buy in any catalog. This became known as the Craftsman style, and it grew right out of a movement that celebrated the beauty of things made with care. A man named Gustav Stickley championed it all, spreading the idea through a magazine he published, until families all across the country began to fall in love with the warmth of it. And what homes they were! Low, gentle rooflines that seemed to hug the ground. Wide eaves reaching out overhead. Thick beams left proudly on display. And inside, oh, This is the part one adore. Furniture built right into the walls. Cozy little window seats, shelves tucked into every nook, cabinets that belong to the house forever. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was wasteful. Every corner seemed to whisper that somebody had cared. The finest example of them all is a home in Pasadena called the Gamble House, raised right at the turn of the century by two brothers with a gift for wood. They treated that house the way a fine artist treats a painting, every beam sanded smooth as silk, every peg placed just so, the whole thing glowing like a piece of furniture you'd be almost afraid to touch. It wasn't merely built. It was crafted in the truest sense of the word. But you see, a home like that was a luxury. It took time and skill and money to make something so lovingly by hand. So now I want to take you somewhere else entirely. Away from the fine woodwork and the West Coast sunshine, down to the warm and humble South, to a little house built for folks who had almost nothing at all, and yet gave the world something unforgettable. Down in the warm heart of the South, there stood a kind of home so narrow you could almost stretch out your arms and touch both walls at once, often just 12 feet wide, standing shoulder to shoulder with its neighbors along the street. They called it the Shotgun House, and there's a curious reason for that name. Inside, the rooms lined up one right behind the other in a perfectly straight row, with no hallway at all. You'd walk from the front room straight into the next, and the next, clear through to the back. Folks used to say that if you opened both doors and fired a shot through the front, it would sail cleanly out the back without ever touching a wall. That's just an old saying, mind you, but the name stuck. These little homes carried a rich history in their bones. Their design likely traveled up from New Orleans, shaped by the hands and heritage of families with roots in Haiti and West Africa, going all the way back to the early 1800s. They were quick to build and gentle on the pocketbook, which made them a blessing in growing towns where working families needed a roof over their heads. And built so close together, with their doors front and back, they caught every breath of breeze on a sweltering summer day, nature's own air conditioning, long before such a thing existed. But here is what gives this humble little house its glory. In a modest shotgun home in Tupelo, Mississippi, 2 small rooms, hardly anything to it, a baby boy was born into a family with next to nothing. That baby grew up to become the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley. Just imagine it. From those 2 tiny rooms rose one of the most famous voices this country has ever known. That very house still stands today, lovingly preserved so folks can walk through and see for themselves just how small a beginning can be and how far a life can travel from it. Now, from that little southern home built for those with so little, let's journey to the other end of things entirely up into the leafy, well-to-do suburbs, where families with money to spare were dreaming not of America at all, but of old England across the sea. Up in the green and leafy suburbs, where the lawns rolled wide and the driveways were long, a different sort of dream was taking shape. Families who had done well for themselves didn't want anything modern or plain. They wanted a home that looked as though it had been plucked straight out of old England, the kind of house you'd expect to find on a misty lane a few hundred years ago. And so came the style folks called Tudor Revival, and it was pure storybook charm. Steeply pitched roofs that rose sharp against the sky, tall brick chimneys stretching high overhead, and those unmistakable dark wooden beams crisscrossing the pale outer walls, giving each home the look of something ancient and grand. It was all about a feeling, really, a longing for old-world charm, for craftsmanship, for a sense of history that a brand-new country didn't quite have yet. In the 1920s and 30s, well-off families snapped these homes up, especially in the comfortable towns ringing New York City, where whole neighborhoods filled with these little castles. There's something so romantic about them, isn't there? You half expect to see a lantern glowing in the window and hear the crackle of a fire within. And here's a charming little secret that always delights me. Many of those grand-looking timber beams weren't holding up a thing. In the true Old English homes, the beams were the very bones of the house, but on these American versions, they were often simply nailed on for looks, pure decoration meant to whisper of a past that was never really there. Now, before we carry on, do stay close, my friends, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe and give this a little like. It costs you nothing but a moment, and it keeps these stories coming your way. And oh, you'll want to stay, because right around the corner I'm going to show you a perfectly ordinary-looking home tied to one of the most spine-tingling tales in the whole country. A house made entirely of metal, with a machine inside it you simply won't believe. And, saving the very best for last, that one home whose story still tugs at my heart. So please, don't wander off. Because as lovely and dreamy as these English-style homes were, not every old house wore its charms so gently. The Dutch settlers left their mark on America too, and one home built in their style went on to become famous the world over, for reasons that are anything but charming. The Dutch settlers who came to America long ago brought a look all their own, and it lived on in a style folks fell in love with all over again in the early 1900s. The heart of it was the roof, a gentle, sloping shape with 2 angles on each side, curving down like the roof of an old country barn. They called it a gambrel roof, and it gave these homes such a cozy, tucked-in feeling, as though the house itself were pulling a blanket up around its shoulders. Wide eaves hung overhead, big dormer windows peeked out from the roofline to let the sunshine in, and a tidy row of shutters framed each window just so. Everything about it said comfort, family, home. And most of these homes were exactly that, warm places where children grew up and families gathered round the supper table for generations. But there is one of them, my dears, that took a very different path. It stands at a quiet address on Ocean Avenue, in a peaceful little town called Amityville, out on Long Island. From the street, it looks like the gentlest thing in the world, that soft barn-shaped roof, those 2 curious windows up top like a pair of watching eyes. You'd never guess a thing was amiss. But in the mid-1970s, something terrible happened within those walls, a tragedy so dark that the whole nation turned its eyes toward that ordinary Dutch colonial home. And what came after was even stranger. The family who moved in next claimed the house was troubled by things they couldn't explain, things that chilled them to the bone and drove them out the door in a matter of weeks. Their stories spread like wildfire, spun into books and one frightening film after another, until that quiet little house became the single most famous haunted home in all of America. To this day, folks slow their cars just to catch a glimpse of it, that sweet, barn-roofed house holding onto a legend it never asked for. Now, after a chill like that, let's step back into the bright light of hope. Because when the Great War ended and the soldiers came marching home, America faced a brand new problem, millions of families and nowhere near enough houses to hold them. And out of that desperate need came one of the boldest, most peculiar ideas this country ever tried. When all those young men came home from the war, they came home wanting the simplest things in the world, a wife, a job, and a little house to call their own. But there just weren't enough houses to go around, not by a long shot. So one clever industrialist named Carl Strandland looked at the problem and had an idea so bold it almost sounds made up. What if a house didn't need to be built of wood at all? What if you could make it out of metal, sturdy panels of steel coated in smooth, shiny enamel, the very same tough finish they put on kitchen stoves and refrigerators? A home that would never rot, never need painting, and could be wiped clean with a damp cloth, just like a dinner plate. They called them Lustron homes, and they truly were a marvel. Each one arrived as a great kit of parts, over 3,000 pieces, ready to be bolted together into a gleaming little house. And the inside was every bit as wonderful as the idea itself. The walls were made of that same enameled steel, so a busy homemaker could simply wipe away the fingerprints and the dust. There was clever built-in storage tucked here and there. And here is the detail that always makes me marvel. Many came fitted with a single remarkable machine that could wash your dishes and wash your clothes, all in one. Can you imagine such a thing back then? Carl Strandland dreamed enormous dreams. He meant to build tens of thousands of these homes, whole neighborhoods of shining steel, a fresh start for a whole generation. But the money troubles piled up, and the dream slipped through his fingers before it could truly take flight. His company closed its doors right at the start of the 1950s. And yet, out of all that heartbreak, something rather wonderful remains. More than 2,000 of those steel homes were built, and a great many of them are still standing strong today, just as clean and solid as the day they went up. Now, those metal marvels never did catch on the way he'd hoped. But the very next style? Oh, this one didn't just catch on, it swept across the entire country until nearly every new house being built in America was cut from the very same cloth. By the time the 1950s rolled around, America had fallen head over heels for one particular kind of home, so completely that nearly 9 out of every 10 new houses going up were this very style. It was called the ranch house, and it stretched out long and low and easy across the land, all on a single floor, no stairs to climb. The idea had been dusted off years earlier by an architect named Cliff May, who looked back to the old Spanish homes of California for inspiration, those graceful, ground-hugging houses built for sunshine and open living. And the everyday family simply couldn't get enough of it. It was affordable, it was practical, and it felt fresh and free. But then something playful happened. As the whole country got swept up in the wonder of the space age, rockets, ray guns, and dreams of the future, a bolder, jazzier version of the ranch appeared, and folks came to call it the Atomic Ranch. Oh, these homes had personality. Great big picture windows that pulled the outdoors right into the living room. Little windows set up high near the ceiling to let the light pour down. Bold, cheerful colors you'd never dare use today. And rooflines that tilted and swooped in the most futuristic ways, some even shaped like butterfly wings. It was a house that looked like it was dreaming of tomorrow. One builder in particular, a man named Joseph Eichler, spread this sunny, forward-looking style all across California, and to this day folks treasure his homes. Now, my dears, we've come exactly halfway on our little journey through time, and I do hope you're settled and comfortably, because I promise you the loveliest stops are still ahead. Do you remember, right at the very start, I told you about a home whose story brought a tear to my own eye? Well, we're drawing closer to it with every step. But before we get there, I want to turn back the clock once more, away from all this bright, hopeful talk of the future, and lead you toward homes that were altogether more mysterious. The kind that could send a little shiver down your spine and stir your imagination all at once. Long before all that bright talk of the future, there stood homes that seemed to belong to another world entirely, mysterious, dramatic, and just a touch spooky. This was the style folks came to call Gothic revival, and it borrowed its whole spirit from the grand old cathedrals and castles of the Middle Ages. Picture it, rooflines that rose in sharp, steep peaks like hands pressed together in prayer. Tall, narrow windows that came to a graceful point at the top. Delicate wooden trim dripping from the eaves like frost on a winter morning. And here and there a pointed tower or a spire reaching up toward the heavens. These weren't quiet little cottages, they were homes with drama in their bones. There's a reason so many of these houses ended up in the ghost stories we tell round a fire. Something about those pointed peaks and shadowed windows fires up the imagination, doesn't it? When the fog rolls in and the light goes gray, one of these old Gothic homes looks for all the world like it's keeping a secret it will never tell. And yet, by daylight, there's a strange and lovely beauty to them, an elegance that feels almost like poetry carved in wood and stone. People built these homes to feel grand, to feel important, to reach for something higher than the everyday. Now here's a delightful little twist that always surprises folks. That famous painting you've surely seen, the stern farmer holding a pitchfork beside his wife. The one that's been copied and joked about 1,000 times, that pointed window behind them. Glowing in the peak of the house is pure Gothic revival. The artist loved that little window so much that he built an entire beloved painting around it. Now, before we move along, do stay right here with me, won't you? And if you're finding a bit of joy in these stories, please take just a second to subscribe and tap that like button. It's a small thing, but it means the world, and it makes sure the next home comes right to you. And believe me, you'll want to see what's coming, a house so sweet and cozy that children draw it without even thinking, a home straight out of a fairy tale, with a roof that curls like something from a storybook, and, saving the dearest for last, that one home whose story still catches in my throat. So please, don't go just yet. Because not every old home was built to send a shiver down your spine. After all that drama and shadow, let me carry you toward the warmest, most comforting little house you can imagine, the kind that feels like a hug the moment you lay eyes on it. After all those shadowed peaks and pointed spires, let me bring you somewhere that feels like coming home after a long day. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the coziest little house you can dream up. A low, simple cottage with a steep roof, a chimney puffing gently in the middle, shutters framing each window, and a front door set right in the center like a warm welcome. That, my dears, is the Cape Cod home, and there's a reason it settles so easily into the heart. It's the very house a child draws when you hand them a crayon and ask them to draw the word home. Plain, symmetrical, honest, and snug. This little style has roots that run way back to the early settlers of New England, who built low and sturdy to stand up against the cold winds blowing off the sea. Everything about it was practical. That steep roof shrugged off the snow, the central chimney kept every room warm, and the whole house hunkered down close and tight against the weather. But its true golden moment came later, in the years right after the Great War, when families all across the country were hungry for a home of their own. The Cape Cod was easy to build, gentle on the budget, and endlessly comforting to look at, so builders raised them by the thousands, whole cheerful neighborhoods of little cottages with white clapboard and green shutters, each one a modest slice of the American dream. And you know, there's something about a Cape Cod that simply refuses to go out of fashion in the heart, even if it fell out of style on the builder's blueprints. It doesn't shout. It doesn't show off. It just stands there, tidy and true, promising warmth on a cold night and a candle in the window to guide you back. To me, it's the very picture of contentment, a house that never needed to be grand to be loved. Now, from that snug little cottage tucked against the northern cold, let me carry you clear across the country to somewhere warm and golden, where the sunshine pours down and the homes look like they wandered over from the shores of the Mediterranean. All red tile and cool white walls. Down where the sun shines warm nearly all the year round, in the golden stretches of California and the balmy coasts of Florida, the homes took on a look that feels like a holiday you never have to leave. This was the Spanish colonial revival, and it drew its beauty from the old missions and haciendas the Spanish settlers had built centuries before. The moment you lay eyes on one, you can almost feel the warmth of it. Smooth white walls, cool and pale, that seemed to glow softly in the afternoon light. Roofs covered in curved red clay tiles, row upon row of them, like ripples on a pond. Graceful arched doorways and windows. Little wrought iron balconies. And often, tucked away in the heart of the home, a peaceful courtyard with a trickling fountain, where a family could sit in the shade and let the whole world slow down. These homes had a real moment of glory in the 1920s, when America fell in love with all things romantic and far away. Folks who had never set foot in Spain wanted a little of that old-world magic for themselves, the sense of history, the drama, the beauty of it all. And the sunny climate suited the style perfectly. Those thick plaster walls kept the rooms cool through the hottest days, and those breezy courtyards and arched openings caught every gentle wind. It was a home built not just to shelter you, but to let you truly live indoors and out, all wrapped in warmth and color. I'll be honest with you, there's something about these homes that simply makes me sigh. You can just picture yourself stepping out onto a tiled terrace in the morning, a cup of coffee warming your hands, the fountain murmuring nearby, and not a single worry in the world. They have a way of making everyday life feel just a little bit like a getaway. Now, we've traveled to the sunny south and the golden coasts, so let me take you all the way back to the very beginning of it all, to the humblest little home in this whole story, the kind of house where America itself was born. Let's go all the way back before the fancy trim and the red tile roofs, back to the very roots of this country, to the simplest home of all. Just a stack of timber, notched and fitted at the corners, the gaps packed tight with clay and moss to keep out the cold. This was the log cabin, and it was the first real home for so many families pushing westward into the wild frontier. There was nothing fancy about it, often just a single room, a dirt floor, one window if you were lucky, and a stone fireplace that served as kitchen, furnace, and gathering place all at once. A whole family would live, cook, sleep, and dream inside those four rough walls. But oh, what those humble little cabins gave rise to. Because you see, in a plain log cabin in the backwoods of Kentucky, with next to nothing to their name, a poor family welcomed a baby boy. That boy grew up splitting rails and reading books by firelight, and he went on to become one of the most beloved leaders this nation has ever known, Abraham Lincoln, who rose from that dirt-floored cabin all the way to the highest office in the land. Just think of that journey. From a one-room shelter in the wilderness to the halls of the White House. It became such a powerful symbol that, for years after, folks running for high office would proudly boast of being born in a log cabin, as if to say, look how far a person can climb, no matter how small their beginning. And that, to me, is the real beauty of these homes. They weren't built to impress anyone. They were built by hardworking hands out of whatever the land could offer, raised in a weekend with the help of neighbors, warm and sturdy and honest. They stood for grit, for family, for the courage to start a whole new life with nothing but an axe and a dream. Now, while those pioneer families were notching logs out on the lonesome frontier, something very different was rising far to the south, not humble cabins at all, but grand and gleaming white palaces, breathtaking to behold, and yet shadowed by a sorrow this country has never quite forgotten. Far to the south, along the sleepy rivers and the wide green fields, a very different kind of home rose up, grand, gleaming, and impossible to forget. These were the great mansions of the Antebellum style, a word that simply means before the war. Picture the most stately home you can imagine, tall white columns marching clear across the front, 2 stories high, holding up a roof like the temples of ancient times. Wide, shady verandas wrapping around the outside, perfect for catching the river breeze. Grand staircases sweeping up inside. Tall windows and towering ceilings meant to keep the rooms cool through the long, warm southern days. From a distance, glowing white against the green, they looked for all the world like palaces. These homes were built to display wealth and standing, mostly across the deep south in the years before that great and terrible conflict between the states. And they were beautiful. There's simply no denying the elegance of them, the grace of those columns, the romance of a candlelit ballroom. But we must never look at these homes through rose-colored glasses, my dears. For all their beauty rested on a foundation of great sorrow, the labor of countless people held in bondage, whose hands built and tended these estates without freedom and without pay. So when we admire these mansions today, we hold 2 feelings at once, wonder at their beauty and a solemn remembrance of the suffering woven into their very walls. And here's a fact that lingers with me. A great many of these grand homes were built with wide central hallways running straight through the middle, front door to back, not for show, but to pull a cooling breeze through the whole house in the days long before any machine could do it. Beauty and cleverness, side by side. Now, before we go on, do stay close, won't you? And if these stories have found a place in your heart, please take just a moment to subscribe and give this a gentle like. It's the kindest little thing you can do, and it makes certain the next home comes right to you. And you truly won't want to miss what's ahead, a fairy tale cottage with a rolling, wavy roof like something from a children's book, a home that looks as though it grew right up out of the earth itself, and then, dearest of all, that final home whose story still brings a tear to my eye. So please, stay right here with me. Because after all that grandeur and all those towering white columns, let me lead you somewhere far softer and sweeter, to a little home so charming and whimsical it looks like it wandered straight out of a storybook. Now here is a home to make you smile the very moment you see it. Picture a little cottage that looks as though it were baked from gingerbread and frosting, a roof that rolls and waves and curls at the edges, made to mimic the look of an old thatched cottage from the English countryside. Walls that seem to lean and wobble ever so slightly, as if the whole house were drawn by hand. Tiny windows with diamond-shaped panes. A crooked little chimney. And a rounded front door so low and snug you half expect a friendly little fellow to peek out and invite you in for tea. They called this style Storybook, and my goodness, the name fits it like a glove. It all began out in Hollywood, back in the 1920s, and that's really no surprise at all. You see, the folks who first dreamed up these homes were the very same clever souls who built the sets and scenery for the movies. They took all that make-believe magic, the enchanted cottages and fairy tale villages from up on the silver screen, and they built them for real, right there on ordinary streets for ordinary families to live in. Can you imagine? Coming home each evening to a house straight out of a bedtime story. For a little while, these whimsical cottages popped up all across California, each one more charming than the last, every detail designed to delight. And here's the little secret that makes it all the sweeter: that wavy, drooping roofline, the one that looks so wonderfully old and weathered, was often crafted brand new on purpose. The shingles deliberately curled and rolled to fake the look of a centuries-old cottage that had sagged with age. It was movie magic made solid, a house pretending to be far older than it truly was. Now, before we carry on, do stay right here beside me, won't you? And if this little journey has brought a bit of warmth to your day, please take just a second to subscribe and tap that like. It's a small kindness that means more than you know, and it keeps these stories coming your way. Because what's left is truly the best of all, a remarkable home that looks as though it grew straight up out of the ground, blending into the wild like it was always meant to be there, and then saving the dearest for the very last. That one home whose story still brings a tear to my eye. So please, don't wander off now. We're so close to the heart of it all. Because as playful and make-believe as this little cottage was, the next home took the very opposite path. Instead of pretending, it set out to become one with the earth, the trees, and the water all around it. Now here is a home that didn't try to look like a castle or a cottage or anything from across the sea. Instead, it set out to do something bolder, to belong completely to the very ground it stood upon. This was the vision of America's most famous architect of all, a man named Frank Lloyd Wright, and he called his idea organic architecture. What a lovely notion that is. He believed a house should never fight against nature, but grow out of it, should seem to rise up naturally from the rock and the soil, as though it had always been meant to stand right there among the trees. And the most breathtaking example of all is a house called Fallingwater, tucked deep in the woods of Pennsylvania. Now, you'd think a man would build his grand home with a lovely view of a waterfall. But not right, oh no. He built the house directly on top of the waterfall, so the water comes tumbling and rushing right out from beneath the living room, spilling down over the rocks below. Just imagine it, sitting quietly in your parlor, and there beneath your very feet is the endless music of falling water, day and night, never once stopping. Great slabs of stone reach out over the stream like the ledges of the cliff itself, and inside, real boulders push right up through the floor, left just where nature put them. The whole house seems to float there among the trees, half building and half forest. Wright believed with all his heart that a home should lift the human spirit, that the rooms we live in shape the very way we feel and think. He wanted folks to feel calm and free and deeply connected to the living world outside their windows. And standing before Fallingwater, watching that home cling so gracefully to its cliff with the water singing below, you understand exactly what he meant. It isn't merely a house. It's a piece of the earth that someone taught to shelter a family. Now, my dears, we've journeyed through grand mansions and humble cabins, through castles and cottages and homes grown right out of the rock. But there is one home still waiting, the one I've been saving all this long while, the one whose story still brings a tear to my eye. But before we reach it, let me show you one more. Before we come to the very last home, let me show you one that gathered up the whole story we've been telling and rolled it all into one. As the years drifted on toward the end of the last century, folks began to feel a longing, a sweet, aching wish for all the charm of the old homes we've visited together. They missed the wide, welcoming porches, the little towers, the fancy trim, the gingerbread details of days gone by. And so builders gave them a home that borrowed a little something from everywhere. They called it the Neo-Victorian, or the Neo-Eclectic, and that second name tells you everything: eclectic, meaning a little bit of this and a little bit of that, all gathered lovingly together. Picture a home that tips its hat to nearly every style we've talked about. It might have a grand turret like a queen and a bit of decorative trim tucked under the eaves, a wide wraparound porch made for rocking chairs and lemonade, and steep, playful roof lines reaching this way and that. These homes rose up all across the country through the 1980s and 90s and right on into our own time, filling up new neighborhoods with a warm, familiar sort of charm. On the outside, they wear the romance of the old days, but step inside, and you'll find every modern comfort a family could wish for. And I think there's something rather touching about these homes. They're a little love letter to everything that came before, proof that we never quite let go of the past, that we carry the porches and towers and gables of our grandparents' world right along with us into the new. They remind us that a house has always been about more than walls and a roof. It's about a feeling, a memory, a sense of belonging. And now, my dears, we've arrived. Everything we've seen, every home along the way, has been leading us here to the very last house, the one I've held in my heart this whole journey through. Take a breath, settle in close, and stay with me, because this final story is the one that still brings a tear to my eye. And so we come, at last, to the home I've been holding in my heart this whole journey through. It isn't the grandest house we've seen. It has no towering white columns, no waterfall singing beneath the floor, no fairy tale roof curling at the edges. It is something far simpler than all of that, and yet, to my mind, it is the most beautiful home in all of America. Because this home is the one that belongs to you. Think of it now, the house you grew up in, or the one you live in today. The particular creak of a certain step on the stairs that you'd know anywhere in the dark. The spot on the doorframe where someone once marked your height, a little pencil line climbing higher year by year. The window where the morning light came pouring in and found you at the breakfast table. The kitchen that still, if you close your eyes, smells of something your mother or your grandmother used to make. None of these things will ever show up in a catalog. No architect drew them onto any blueprint. And yet they are the truest features any home has ever had. For you see, my dears, that is the secret hiding at the very heart of this whole long story. Every style we've wandered through, the mail-order houses and the steel ones, the log cabins and the grand old mansions, the storybook cottages, and the homes grown right out of the rock. Every last one was only ever a shell, a set of walls waiting patiently to be filled. It is the living that turns a house into a home. The laughter around the supper table. The quiet tears. The first steps and the last goodbyes. The ordinary Tuesday evenings that we never think to remember and somehow never quite forget. Walls and beams and doorknobs do not make a home. Love does. Time does. You do. And that is the thought that brings the tear to my eye. Because somewhere out there, this very moment, a young family is standing in an empty room, dreaming of all the life about to fill it. Just as your family once did. Just as families have done in every single home we've visited today. The styles change with the passing years. The dream never does. So there we have it, my dears, our long and lovely journey through the homes of America come to a gentle close at last. Just think of all the places we've wandered together today. We began with houses that arrived in the mail, packed in wooden crates, and we ended at the doorstep of your very own heart. We've seen mansions and cabins, castles and cottages, homes of steel and homes of stone, houses grown right out of the rock and houses dreamed up on a movie lot. Each one told us something not just about wood and brick and nails, but about the people who built them and the hopes they carried and the lives they longed to live inside those walls. And isn't that the wonder of it all? Every home, grand or humble, was really the same thing underneath, someone's dream of shelter, someone's wish for warmth, someone's quiet prayer for a safe and happy place to lay their head at night. The rich and the poor, the famous and the forgotten, all of them wanted the very same thing you and I want still, a roof, a hearth, and the people we love gathered close beneath it. Homes may change their shape and their style as the years roll on by, but that longing in the human heart, why, it never changes at all. So the next time you walk up to your own front door, I hope you'll pause, just for a moment, and see it with fresh eyes. That house of yours is part of a story far older and grander than you ever imagined, a story stretching all the way back through the log cabins and the mansions, all the way up to the little home you call your own. You are the newest chapter in that long and beautiful tale. And that, my friends, is something truly worth treasuring. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. It means more than you could ever know. If you enjoyed our little journey today, please do subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, and leave me a comment down below. I'd truly love to hear about the home that lives in your heart. Take good care of yourselves, hold your loved ones close, and until we meet again, may your home always be filled with warmth and love and light.